Welcome. Welcome, Sean. I'm going to forget he's there now when I'm talking.
I put his name tag there.
Oh, okay. The first order of business is the minutes of April 5th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written for April 5th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
We don't have to do that now.
Oh,
Well,
right,
we might
okay.
because, yeah.
I will.
Oh, sorry. Sean has to. Okay. Number 2 says none. What was number 2 supposed to be?
Oh, no,
No.
no hearings.
Okay. Public comments.
Hello, Kathy Hall. I have two things. One was from our last meeting, I told you I would come back about the open space and recreation plan. On May 27th, 2016, Bob Nason received the approval for our open space and recreation plan. The last 2 weeks, I did speak with Melissa Crayon. I shouldn't say spoke with her, we did email. And she's the Grant Program Supervisor, Division of Conservation Services. And she said if the town needed to or wanted to apply for a DCS loan, we would have to submit plans prior to the expiration date, which was November 2022.
That's for a loan, Kathy?
That's for, the DCS loans park grant. So
Oh.
it's for the grant, okay?
Okay.
That deadline is July 14th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
Okay.
And there are all sorts of grants related to that. There's conservation grants, grants for new parks, grants for all kinds of things. I was looking at them today, so if you want, I can print those out and I can bring them to Chris
Yeah.
so he has it to give to you
Yeah.
about the different grants available. And the second thing is the Lee Youth Commission just want to remind everybody that our activities start on Wednesday, April 27th at the Lee Athletic Field from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And those activities will be held every Wednesday until school ends. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay. Okay. So the first order of business, or general business up, is the, what? Oh, I'm sorry, Rob.
Thank you. Rob Wright. I was just wondering, as far as the paving of streets in the town, how is that selection process made, and is it made in Lee?
Yes and no. We usually have a list from DRPC that lists in order of how bad they are. Changes every year. It goes to the DPW, and at some point, the DPW board usually comes up with what needs to be done first. So it could change from year to year.
Great,
Yeah, we
thank you.
also use something called a street scan.
Yes, street
So
scan.
it looks at the condition of the roads and how frequently traveled they are and that sort of thing.
So it's through the Berkshire Regional Planning?
Well, that part of it is. but
As
most-
far as funding, is that
Oh,
part
yeah.
of it?
The funding is done with, well, we did a loan last year, a bond rather,
Yes.
for paving, and then we get roughly 300,000 in Chapter 90 money every year from the state as well. So,
Okay, great, thank you.
welcome.
Okay. All right, Lindsay. Lindsay is here with, looking for approval of the new personnel handbook. I have to say, I did not read every page of it, but I did read, and I just have a couple of questions, nothing hard.
Okay.
Now, this little note I made for myself, I don't even know what that means, so do not, I think we're all set. Unused sick leave. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to compare it But I wanted to ask Chris, because we have his contract also, where they can use a maximum of 180 days, right? Not used to maybe carried over and accumulated into the next year, up to a maximum of 180 days. That's 180 days of actual sick leave they can carry forward and not have to use it within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, so every year you're granted 15 sick days, and they accumulate, and you can accumulate up to 180 days, nothing past that.
Okay.
If
So,
you never call in
If you
sick.
never,
Yes, if
yeah.
you never called them, so,
And if
okay.
you've been here for, 30 some plus years, you'll get to that point eventually.
Because then I was looking at your vacation sick leave, and I wanted to make sure you weren't getting cheated.
Oh, I believe the sick leave is in accordance with this. but-
Yeah,
It is, okay. There's vacation. Same level of sick level, bereavement leave, okay. There's some place where it said you could carry forward something. Maybe I've got the two mixed up. Okay. Okay, and then, you have family leave, which everybody's entitled to take. And the employer must maintain group health insurance during the leave.
Yep.
Employees are entitled to be restored to the same or equivalent position at the conclusion of their leave. So, but during that leave time, does the employee still have to contribute their part?
yes,
The town's not paying their part of the
that's
insurance.
correct.
That was it, see, I told you.
So that's easy.
And so this, the handbook that we're considering approving, my understanding is, I was talking to Chris today, that the social media policies didn't exist before
Correct.
this one. Are there any other major changes?
No, that was the biggest one, that was the addition. Everything else has just been updated by law, and they have just been one cohesive, we wanted one cohesive thing for everybody to refer to.
Right.
Where I was working with memos and updates from the 90s and beyond, so I just wanted to clump it all together. Nothing has really been changed. The only other thing that was kind of changed was the bereavement leave. Before, it was very specific who your relative was for you
Oh,
to,
right, I remember the
to go for bereavement leave. And we felt
Yeah.
like some people don't have aunts and uncles or grandparents, but their friends are their family, like if they're very close friends. So we adjusted it to reflect that. Between that and the social media, that's like the only thing that's really changed.
Some clarifications, some things that
Yeah.
were vague that we added more
Yeah,
specificity to.
like vacation leave, like when people, how many hours they put in based
Yeah.
off how many hours they work. We clarified that. Yeah, none of the benefits or anything else has changed for anybody, so nothing is changing. We changed town hall hours, so that is reflected in the final draft. We put the new hours in. But as far as everything else, it's all the same except for that social media policy was new.
And this will be posted on the website?
Yeah, I'm hoping to, now that we have our new website up, I can have my own page. So I wanna put all of our handbook and most of our policies updated right there for people to access.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to thank Lindsay for putting this together, because as she mentioned, there was a lot of like different memos and things that were
Yeah.
just sort of collected, with going back to parts that were done on a typewriter. So there was no way to update it. There was no electronic version of this that could be updated. It was just simply, adding more addendums to
Yeah.
it.
And I wanna thank the personnel board as well for meeting with me and giving me their suggestions and their advice, and
Have they signed off on
they
that?
did, they gave me their approval for that. And I think, this has been a long time coming, and I think it'll just benefit our employees that they have a place to go to look at stuff.
And the only thing that should be stressed to some people or is that unions sometimes have their own
Yep.
stuff. with
Yeah,
them,
so-
they need to be
yeah.
cognizant of that
In,
fact.
in little parts, you'll see a little asterisk that says unions, please
Yeah.
refer to your own union
I saw that.
contract. So that, but for, town hall employees and, this will be good that we have this. It's been a long time coming, like I said.
It has.
It's-
I remember.
Then, Lindsay,
Well, so Bob had a bunch of memos and amendments to policies. I think one of the oldest ones I was working with was from 1993.
Yeah,
So-
I believe he put something together right after he started, which was in 1990.
Yeah,
But everything changes year to year to year.
yeah.
yeah,
Right, it was, okay, we're gonna change, it's a memo
Yeah,
out that
and
this is
he
changing.
would just attach the memo, like staple the memo to the old policy, and so it was literally a book of attached things, so.
moving forward, how often do you, would you see this being revisited?
I'd like to just stay up to date, especially with laws changing, as they do. I wanna make sure I keep it up to date as possible.
So it won't be like a yearly or bi-yearly thing, you'll just kind of, as things kind of come, get developed, you'll. make
Yeah,
changes.
I hope that it's not every, month or two, but you never know how things change. But yeah, I'd like to, now that we have a consistent one, I'd like to stay on top of it.
Yeah, the key being that it's an electronic version now that can easily make the
Yeah.
changes, so.
Right. Yeah, great.
Okay, you want us to vote on it?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Town of Lee Employee Handbook for 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
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 Cat Carolina,
Thanks, guys.
you're welcome.
Thank you for all your work.
I'm not going anywhere, I just got this weird reflection I gotta see next.
Florida problems.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step out. I don't know if you need me. All right.
I guess, we'll wait for Sean to get back, but the next item up for discussion is this Textile Recycling Program. Chris is gonna explain.
Yeah, so recently the
Okay.
Commonwealth changed laws related to disposal of textiles or clothing, blankets, any fabric items, that those should be recycled or reused rather than being thrown into the regular waste. So we have an opportunity with CMRK for a textile recycling bin for the town. And so we met with the representatives there, and the proposal is to put that over at the Uraldi building, probably somewhere where the Bullseye is being demolished, somewhere in that neighborhood. It would be official town recycling, would have our town seal on it, would be on town property. People could recycle clothing there and so forth. And then there's no cost to us for the bins. We don't have to empty them or anything. The company would come and empty those. The town would get 7 cents a pound of the recyclables that are put in there.
So is this,
Yeah, that's an example of what
is
the
that
bin looks like.
one bin, two of them together, or?
Right, that's what it would look exactly like that. There'd
So
be
it
two
would just
slots
be
in it.
these, this size, wouldn't
Yep.
be 2 or 3 of them?
And then there would be a QR code on there as well, where if I went down and put an article of clothing, I could scan it, because they do go to donations as well,
Yeah.
so it would send me a receipt for income tax purposes as well, so.
And what
for the
keeps people
donation.
from putting stuff in it that they shouldn't be putting in it?
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons they like to do it near a town building in hopes that, there'll be
People
somebody
visit
there
it.
to watch. Obviously, there's nighttime, could happen, so.
And that'd be the only place we'd be talking about.
That would be the only one in Lee, and Typically, we don't have a transfer station. Typically, that would be the first choice, and the second would either be at a town building, police department, town hall, that sort of thing. Although, we don't have a place for it here at town hall. So our other two options were either the fire station or a Raleigh building, and that has better parking. It's right near the post office, more visibility, so.
And if something should happen in that area, we'd have to find a new place for it, in the future.
I mean, they are movable, yeah. That's pretty much.
Okay, and the only other question I had is under what Town of Lee is responsible for is to ensure that CMARC is the exclusive municipal textile and shoe collector on mutually agreed town properties. Okay, so in other words, we're not going to put someone else right next to CMARC.
Right. The town would be using.
But what if we should get into a situation where there's more than CMARC out there doing this?
Oh.
Would we then get into a yearly bid process or
I
something?
mean, we could end that contract and go with a different company if.
Okay, nothing stops us from doing that.
I think there was like a 30-day, either party could sever this, right? I remember reading
Well,
that.
yeah, 30-day notice.
Yeah.
Let me just pull it up here.
Or I think we could sever it, they have 30 days to clear the
Right.
containers if we were to sever it, or something, it was something like that.
Let me just pull it up here.
Okay,
Removal of the bins within 30 days of termination.
Yeah, so if we did decide we wanted to just go ahead and,
And we could terminate any time, and then they have 30 days to remove them.
okay.
I just have a question. I know down near the turnpike, there's a Goodwill box, right? So Goodwill is a private corporation, but this is essentially the same thing, but it will benefit the town.
Right.
So I think it's that we let people know that, because,
Right.
And, and that would be, it also bodes well with the new legislation that the
Yeah.
town is offering a way to recycle
Right.
as well. That's a kind of a town-sponsored.
right.
Do you know if there'll be any type of advertisement or explanation written to people, that here's what goes in these bins? I assume they'll put maybe something on the bin itself.
Yeah, so there is information that will be a QR code as well as some other information on the bin. But then the same company does mailings for at-home pickup as well. We do one day a month, so. So that we don't get any proceeds from that. The 7 cents doesn't apply to that. Only what goes into the town bid.
But it's
So
nothing
they can
we
do that
could-
as well.
We could put on our website.
Yeah,
that it's
absolutely, yeah.
available, what is approved to go in them.
Yeah.
And then, wait and see. Okay, what are our colors? Orange and black?
or, that's what I was thinking.
It says our bins are fully customizable to match your town's colors and logos.
Sure.
Put some pop all over it, and,
We don't want it to look too, garish, but,
maybe not all over it, yeah.
I'm writing down orange and black if that's what you would.
well, I would say mostly black.
Yeah, with an
Small
orange, yeah.
Just
okay.
small, or maybe orange wildcat in each corner.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, Patty, yeah, black with maybe a couple orange popcorns.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
I mean, I
One
think
on each, or-
might as well try it. If it doesn't work, we'll find out soon enough, and
And they're doing this with a number of other towns in Berkshire County as well, so.
Okay. Do we need to vote on it? Probably.
Yes, we will need a signature for that, so.
Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion. Go
are
ahead.
we sorry, what's the word? Is this like just for the chair to sign?
Yeah, just one signature on it, yep, so. Move to allow the chair to sign.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to allow the chair of the select board to sign and approve the agreement with CMRK.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
John Mannion, aye.
Bob Jones, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. Okay. Next order of business. We have a contract for our town administrator, which we met in executive session and worked it out with him. But once we approve it, it's public knowledge. I don't know if you want me to go over any of the terms or,
It's up to you, yeah.
okay.
Has any questions? Or...
Well, let's go over the highlights. He's 40 hours plus. He's paid for 40 hours, but he's plus. He has all of the same benefits and employee working that all the other employees do. He didn't ask for anything special, which was very nice of him. And we're looking at a 3-year contract at this point. And the first year, effective this fiscal year, which ends June 30th, at an annual salary of $98,000, which will be prorated for when you started, or
Yeah, the date on there, right, yeah.
I think it was the date that we actually voted
Yeah,
to,
February.
February 18th, 22. Okay.
as the full-time to do the interim
Yeah.
work there, but it would be the full-time position, right?
And then, just like any other employee, for the next 2 years, he's increased his salary by 2%. Is that right, Chris? I did it out.
Yep, the COLA, yep.
Yeah, which I think was fair. I mean, anybody can read it that wants to read it. Anyways, I'm okay with it. We discussed it. I felt that it was fair, a fair contract, and we appreciated his forthcoming in putting it together. Sean, you got any questions or?
Nope, I'm good.
No? No? You want a motion? Make a motion, we approve the contract, the agreement between Town of Lee and Chris Britton, the town administrator. Beginning.
Second,
All those in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
John Mannion, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, the next order of business is the review of the ATM draft warrants. I have it right here. Which the Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow night.
Right, yep, they're meeting
Okay.
tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and we'll do their recommendations, so.
Okay,
Everything else is in there, except for that, the Capital Outlay Committee met last week, and they approved all the capital items,
okay,
and Finance Committee will finish up with their recommendations tomorrow.
okay.
And then we hope to have the draft, I'll have the draft out by email the next day, and then in the mail prior to the Baby Town meeting.
Okay. Which is April 28th,
Right,
6 o'clock?
yes, at the senior center. Yep.
Okay. Do you have any questions on the monetary?
Do you want me to go through them, or?
If you want, briefly.
Article 1, as always, is the accepting the town reports. And Article 2, again, one that we see every year, fixing the salaries of elected officials, which is the select board and the moderator, which we're required to do. Then in Article 3, we typically transfer 50% of the proceeds from the cemetery lots. This year, that equals $4,100, and that goes into the perpetual care trust account. Then the operating budget. We can, and if you want me to highlight some of the ones that are
Maybe that have gone up a lot.
that have gone up a little bit. So information technology and general government, that has a significant increase, which is on account of new personnel software we're adding. We're currently using a very old, outdated paper system for tracking all time attendance and so forth. And we're converting all of our payroll and time and attendance to an electronic system. That software, obviously comes at a price, but it's.
And is this just the town's portion, or?
That is the town and the school, so
It's the
all of the
schools
school
also.
employees as well, so they'll be using it as well, and it tracks all of the vacation, sick days. It incorporates time clock. Sorry, go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but is this like a one-time purchase, or is this like a subscription where year after year we're gonna be kind of paying this service for this service?
Yeah, so we don't anticipate, so part of it is one time, part of it will be yearly. So for example, like we don't anticipate any increases after this year, or any major increases after that, but we did have some upfront costs to load everything in, set everything up, and then there's like the DPW, for example, they'll be moving from a paper time card to an electronic time clock that incorporates in the payroll system and so forth. So it's a little bit of both, but.
Do the police have time clocks? Just curious.
No, I don't, they don't, no. Only Public Works.
Okay.
And that's part of their union contract.
Okay. Conservation Commission. Well, I guess.
Yeah, it looks like a
looks
lot,
like a
it looks
lot,
like
but
a
it's
lot, but
not.
it's only $584. That was just some additional hours. There's been an increase of records requests and things of that nature that have caused those hours to go over. The same with sealer of weights and measures. It's a small increase, or a big percentage, but small in number wise. And part of that we've been operating the last couple of years. Yeah.
I'm sorry, just want to ask a question. Are we gonna have, town reports in a booklet, or last year was just like stapled paper?
Yeah, they should be in a booklet. Yeah.
It'll be in a booklet?
Yeah. So that, we haven't had anyone in a couple of years with sealer of weights and measures. And so part of the, because we're shared with the administrative assistant is shared with Lennox, which was not happening before that accounts for some additional clerical work that is done there. Same deal with animal control, that again, it's a high percentage, but it's not a huge number, and that was also a new position this year that was renegotiated with. It is also shared, so, through Tri-Town.
I thought Tri-Town had something to do with it.
Yeah, the person works there as well, and they also do that for Lennox and Lee. Public Works had an overall increase of 9.6%, and it's directly related to fuel and supply costs that I think I know everybody's noticed the fuel costs going up, but the same with a lot of our supplies, prices of salt, things like that have gone up.
And the parks and playgrounds specifically, is that because of that?
Parks and playgrounds, there was an increase there. So part of that is for fuel, part of it's for adding mulching, I believe, too, that was not in the budget before, so. For the they call it playground fiber, playground safety fiber.
Yeah. Well, the school budget, what's the traditional like increase? Do they, 3.9% seems, I don't even know what.
Are you asking about the school budget now, Sean?
Yeah, well,
All right, you want to skip over to that?
Yeah, let me just, so school is at 3.9, so that is a little higher than normal. It's usually closer to the high twos, low threes. And Mike Richard will be at the Babytown meeting who could answer that more specifically, but I believe the bulk of that is in special ed cost, mandated special ed outplacements and things of that nature that have driven that. And as high as that seems, a lot of the other districts are coming in a percent or two higher, so it's definitely looking better in some places. Just looking ahead to see.
The Youth Association came in with a little bit of a higher request, 542.
Yeah, so it's a 6%, it's $3,500 there. I do not recall what that extra $3,500 was for. Part of it would be COLA, but, cost of living raises, but I'd have to double check on that, what the rest of it was for.
Okay. Well, looks like it went in almost.
The Sandy Beach had an increase, that was a 20% increase. That was related to the gate. Right now, in the past, we've only had a gate monitor on the busy days, which I think was 3 days out of the week. I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is going to a 7-day-a-week gate monitor. And so that's all wage related. And what that ensures that, you have to have a pass from that's issued at the police department. And so a pass will be required at all times. So. I don't know if there's any other specific questions, but I can go on to the capital next if you're.
Sure.
Insurance was, was pretty good this year. Health insurance had a 0% increase, which we were very happy about. On the capital items, so the first one, town hall security cameras, is replacing the existing indoor and outdoor system. The youth commission was an increase. They've always had a capital item there, but we increased that this year to fund the replacement ice skating rink, which will be I believe more of a. So the wooden one that the youth commission built is time to be out of wood, was replaced. It needs to be replaced, and the idea there was to replace it with a prefabricated, more plastic fiberglass type unit that has a much longer
And Kathy, do you know
life,
if the security cameras down there, are they working now?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had to use it today because there was an incident the past few days. So, Tracy was able to find the culprit.
Okay.
Wow.
Moving on to the,
I'm sorry, could I ask what the fire EMS paving is, 78,000?
Yeah, so that's the second half of the paving. So last year, the front half was done. This is behind where the ambulance garage is.
Yeah,
That's repaving that lot there, so.
okay.
And the other paving plan money there was, so the Board of Public Works was looking to do $1 million in paving.
Yeah.
That kind of rounded out that number. So the 74,910 was the free cash is the proposed free cash appropriation for that. The remaining money was the balance of the bond from last year and 2 years of Chapter 90 money, the FY22 and FY23 money would bring that to a total of $1 million. So, which is reflected in the 5-year capital plan.
Okay.
The others are all pretty standard things. The only additional one that was added this year, the library, I'm sorry, Memorial Hall was actually a separate item. That's to, so part of the flooring is done with ARPA. That was the remaining the office flooring from Memorial Hall. The library was new, and that's to repair the front steps on the library, which need work. And then when we get to the school portion, there's the yearly capital contribution plus the bleachers, which are which are not, they're not receiving a use certificate anymore. They don't meet any of the minimum safety standards.
This is at the high school, of
So
course.
that was, yeah, that was, yeah, in the high school gym. So that was cited earlier in the year, and they gave us a little bit of time to have it replaced, but we're kind of in a situation of either replace that or don't have any bleachers. So, but they don't meet the minimum safety standards any longer, so.
Okay.
Article 6 is
Water.
the water and sewer, which are coming out of the enterprise account, so that's just transferring the money there, both fully funded by the revenue accounts. And Article 6 and 7, which we do every year. 8, the blanket grant authorization allows us to accept and apply for grants without going back to town meeting for each individual grant. Article 9 is the Chapter 90 money from the state that we'll be putting towards paving. Article 10 is what we would consider kind of the miscellaneous expenses that aren't to any particular department necessarily. And so we start with the 2 bond payments. Those were the 2 bonds that were approved at last year's town meeting for paving and fire EMS. So we have those, Chamber of Commerce, which is a yearly contribution. The second half of the historic inventory. So last year we did 16,000. This year we will do 16, and we will be reimbursed for this year's 16. So it's really a wash on that one. We'll get that money back because we matched last year would be our contribution. The MEMA mitigation plan is for our emergency preparedness plan. We have to contribute 30% to that plan. By doing so, that makes us eligible for state money on any of the areas of the emergency plan that we're lacking. So if they find that, for example, our public works building, which has our fuel for our fire trucks and our plow trucks and so forth, does not have a backup generator, they would likely see that in the plan, and then by having that plan done, we can get funding to put a generator in, for example. So that's our contribution towards it. Kind of skipping down past the yearly ones to the bike path. DOT is funding all the construction and most of the design for the bike path, but the town is responsible for the land acquisition. This would be the first and probably least expensive part of it, is to have the title work done, so then we can then approach the landowners for acquiring the property that's needed. And the final one for the VFW is their 100th anniversary this year of the VFW, and they would like to put an additional monument in the VFW Memorial Park by the library that honors the commanders over the last 100 years, and so that's the final appropriation.
Could I back up to the fireworks for Founder's Day?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm not against them. We haven't had the fireworks the last 2 years, have we?
Yeah, we didn't have Founder's Day.
Right, so I
we
wondered
didn't-
where
yeah,
did the money go back
So
into the
back
general
into the
fund?
general
Okay.
fund, yeah, yep. So essentially, we're a couple years ahead on that. Yeah, so any specific questions there? We move on to Article 11, which is the community center. And so this would be the appropriation for a bond, followed by an exemption from Proposition 2.5, a debt exclusion. So step one, of course, we talked about this one last time, so I won't go into any more
It has to be
detail.
voted here as well as that, if it passes, then it would go to another vote of the whole.
A referendum, yep, exactly.
This
Article,
town meeting would be 2/3, we'd need 2/3 for it to pass, correct? I mean,
right, yeah, because it's borrowing, it's a borrowing, so, yep. A 2/3 vote there would trigger the referendum vote. Article 12, the PCB legal counsel. So this was a late citizens petition that the board needs to consider, which would put back the $50,000 that was appropriated, I believe, 2 years ago on an amendment from the rest of river contribution for $50,000, which was done in 2000.
So did you say Article 12 was a citizens petition?
It was a late citizens petition, so it was not
So
done in
it's not-
time, so it's not really a citizens, I mean,
So it's
we
not
had
a
signatures.
It's not a citizens
Right.
petition at this point.
It was submitted, about 28 days after the
Okay.
deadline. So,
Well,
And-
I'm sorry, I can't be in favor of this because of the repercussions that could happen. This language is even more different than it was 2 years ago, was it now?
I think
Or
it
a
was
year
in
ago.
2000. It was,
This, in my view and the view of other people, is a direct function that is directly opposite of what the settlement agreement calls for and could open us up to breach of contract as well as lawsuits. Without even knowing the outcome of the court process right now, which, well, right now it's not to the second phase, but my understanding is that people are taking it to the second phase. And I just can't vote for it because,
I would just step in and I think I just want to make it clear to everybody that I think there is another legal challenge, but I don't think that legal challenge not being an appeal brought before the Environmental Appeals Board, I don't think that that's going to inhibit GE from continuing to do their due diligence and eventually start this work.
right, I mean, it's not going to stop what's going on right now. I just think that's what I think. I can't vote for it.
Well, I think that ultimately, the problem is, of course, that the process right from the very beginning has been viewed with skepticism and anger because of the way it was handled. The whole concept of rest of the river, people are angry about it at this point. And I don't think that the voters themselves, you can't ask the voters to play by the rules when it's perceived by the voters that the rules weren't played by right from the very beginning. And so this isn't my decision. I want to do what the voters want to do. And so I think this should be on the warrant so that we let the voters take it as far down the path as they want to go. Because this is, I'm not going to project as to where this is going to go. I don't know where this is going to go. None of us do. But, I could see in the future, I mean, the dump trucks aren't rolling yet, but I could see civil disobedience on the horizon. I can see all kinds of problems, and I think that we have to take it incrementally. This is where we are now. The citizens want to say in how to move forward, and so I would be for putting this on the warrant.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that,
Yeah.
Bob. But I'm on the other hand, because I've been through the process now for 9 years, And I know what the repercussions could be. And not saying they're going to be, because everything's so up in the air right now between the appeal and the non-appeal. And
This is one way to find out.
there won't be
have to
time to
agree
do
with
that.
Pat.
I'm sorry, what, Sean?
I have to agree with you, Patty, on this. I'm definitely fearful of, because there would be no going back in, and if we were to be found in breach of contract and being removed from the process, there would be no going back in for the town. And I think that given what's transpired over the last year with the appeals process and the EAB upholding the permit, I think that it's a dangerous path for the town of Lee to go and to try to fight this lawsuit at this time out on our own in this manner, the way that this language is, this article is written. And so, you know, us being the legal authority in the town for what's best interest of the town, I can't endorse this this article either.
Well, I'll just remind both of you that, not that you need reminding, but it's our job to represent the majority of voters in the town of Lee, and I think it overwhelmingly they're opposed to this dump and want us to do anything possible to demonstrate our opposition to this agreement. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we've been through it many times before. But
Chris, if I could ask, this being a citizen's petition, would it have to appear on a town meeting eventually, or
No.
now that it's been submitted?
No, I mean, it could be resubmitted
Mhm.
for the for another town meeting, anytime, yeah. Or a special town meeting.
Okay.
I mean, a regular town meeting at 10 signatures, and then the special requires more signatures. I think it's 50
100.
or 100. Okay.
So that having, do you want us to take a formal vote on this?
Well, we should decide, yeah, if we want to leave it on the warrant or not. We had a similar thing happen with the last on a late petition, I believe, at the last town meeting. So,
Okay.
so being that it is in the board's hands now, before
Right.
you sign the
Before we-
warrant, yeah, that would be the way to
What,
proceed. So,
No, I would make a motion to remove Article 12 from the town warrant articles.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Sean Renier, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye.
Bob Jones, no.
and that would
Okay.
bring us to there's two citizens petitions that are on here, but the
Right.
last one that the town has added is Article 13, which is a political sign bylaw revision. So I probably don't need to remind anyone of the situations of the lawn signs, which happened a few months back. But in that whole situation with lawn signs, triggered the planning board to review and rewrite the political sign bylaws. So this relaxes those bylaws wherever it pertains to particularly to freedom of speech and First Amendment rights as far as political signs are concerned. So this was a direct result.
And this has all
of
had
that.
public hearings.
Yes, so there's been public hearings. The ACLU's submitted information on it as well, because they were involved in that situation. So they were able to look at it and provide suggestions to the planning board as well. So it has gone through the hearings as well as some additional reviews that normally don't take place, but with the ACLU. The last two
14.
are citizen petitions. 14, you guys are familiar with, that Mr. Clark brought in for the board to vote on as well, which is on the fair share amendment. This was essentially the same thing he's asking the town meeting to do. And then 15 is to adopt a section of our bylaws for a recall of elected officials, which is not currently part of our bylaws.
Right. And I don't have a problem with that, but I have a question. If you go to section 9 of 15,
Yep,
a person who has been recalled from an office or who has resigned from office while a recall petition was pending against them shall not be appointed to any town office within 2 years after the recall or resignation. And I kind of wonder, is this a state thing we're adopting? Is that the verbiage that the state
yeah,
puts
so
out?
so this was a citizen's petition, I believe, and I don't quote me on it, but I believe that this was, similar to what it was developed from what some other towns already had in place. Some towns in the state do have this, some don't.
Right.
So I think this was based on another town, but being a citizen's petition, didn't really, I wasn't involved with the writing of it, so I don't want to speak for that.
Can we check into that?
So,
And
I
the
mean-
reason I say that is we're a small town. We have a hard time getting people to fill positions now. So I'll use myself. Everybody's mad at me, you recall me. Okay. Well, I'm not worthless anymore. I could come back possibly and serve on a different committee or something and be helpful without saying I can't do it for 2 years. Why?
No.
I didn't do anything illegal, and I just find that kind of punitive.
so, yeah, I mean, we
I don't know
could,
if anybody else agrees with me, but that's how I feel.
I mean, anything like that, we can't change it now because of what's signed by the, by the voter,
Yeah.
the voters that petitioned it. However, I mean, it could be amended on the floor of town meeting to
Okay.
remove or amend a
I
particular
just think it's
section.
kind of
so,
punitive
yeah.
in a town that's always looking for people to help out with
Yeah,
things, you know.
But yeah, that could be done as an amendment on the floor, but we have no way of changing what was signed now, so.
I just wanted to say, I think Patty, part of the thinking there was for that, that process to be a little punitive, so.
Probably.
You're recalling elected officials, so.
Okay.
And then the final part, of course, is just, this is a dual warrant, which will cover the election as well, so that is at the bottom for the election on May 16th at Crossway, with the offices listed there, and then 3 ballot questions.
Case in point, I think we have vacancies on the school committee this year.
There
Or did
is,
we-
there is one position, I believe, that is for 2 people, and there's only 1 running, so.
Okay. So just in case anybody wants
Could
to
be.
jump into the school committee, you could, have a write-in campaign. What, John? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, did someone step down this year?
There is someone who's not running for reelection, I believe.
It's not.
Yeah, there's 2 for 3 years, that only has 1 person running, and then there's
Okay.
1 running in the 1 for 2, and 1 running in the 1 for 1. And both of those terms are that way because they're the remainder of a vacancy that was filled by appointment rather than election, so, from 2 individuals that resigned.
I think we voted in a couple of school board members this year already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there more candidates than positions?
Well, those are the ones that we voted in,
Yeah.
or the board voted in this year, so they only serve until the next election.
Right.
So they're now on there to be an elected to the remainder of their term. The other one, there was a 3rd person has decided not to run again, so that's where that vacancy is, so there's a full board at the moment, but there may not be after the election unless a write-in candidate wins, so.
Okay.
So do we want to vote on the ATM warrant minus Article 12? Do you need that?
Yeah, unless you wanted to wait to sign it until after the baby town meeting.
Oh,
Right
yeah,
now, it's in a
probably.
draft, and then we could do it right
Yeah, you're
after
right.
that. But I will send out the draft and post the draft to the baby town meeting, but it won't be the official posted warrant until,
Okay.
we have up to a week before, so.
Yeah. Forgot about the baby town. We haven't had one in 2 years. Okay, so the next order of business is the Berkshire Gas Permits. First one is to install test station and anodes to gas main on Crossway Street. Been signed off by the police and the DPW. Any curiosities or? John, got anything?
Is this, Crossways, which one's this one?
This is Crossway Street, yeah.
Hang on, let me just get to. Yeah, looks good to me, right? This is they're installing a new test station and anodes.
Yes, well, I'm assuming it's new. It doesn't say.
Yeah, right, I would assume it was new too, but yeah, install test station and anodes to gas
Yeah,
main.
okay. I didn't know if it was a replacement or something, but.
Yeah, it may well be,
You want to make a motion? Or do you want to do them all at once?
I'll make a motion to approve the gas permit for 26 Crossway Street.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
John Mannier, aye.
Bob Jones, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. Then the second one is anode installation in grass on left side of driveway at 55 Davis Street. So I'm assuming that's a residential area. Same thing.
Yes. He's right at the top. No, it's right by it's right by the pipeline.
Any questions?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve the Berkshire Gas Company's application for the installation at 55 Davis Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
John Mannier, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. And then the last one is in the road, edge of road, in front of number 460 at 460 Spring Street. Doesn't say what they're doing.
This is a trench permit?
Well, it does talk about, it's the same thing as, oh, wait a minute, here's something. Oh, to fix a leak, I'm sorry. It was to fix a leak at the above location, because it needs to get fixed before it gets paved, and it's gonna get paved pretty soon, or it already did, possibly.
Yeah, they have agreed to do it as much of on the edge slash lawn as possible on that one.
Okay.
Because
I
of
mean, you gotta fix a leak,
Well,
so.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Berkshire Gas permit for repairs at 460 Spring Street.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
John Mannier, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. Okay, now, this is the fun part of tonight's meeting. We're wishing a happy birthday to our oldest resident in the town of Lee today, by the name of Barbara Broderick, who turns 109 years old on Saturday. And as a personal note, I just want to say that when my mother-in-law lived there, I used to go up a lot on Saturdays and have lunch, and I always had lunch with Barbara Broderick, because they sat at the same table. And I wish her a very happy birthday. She's a very interesting woman, and congratulations, Barbara. 109 years
Birthday.
old.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, now we've got master plan committee discussion. So we've decided we're gonna go with Berkshire Regional Planning for our master plan and our open space. And we have to decide on what type of committee we'd like to form to do this. One way is you can just give it to the planning board and tell them they gotta do it. Or we can ask for people who would like to serve on the master plan committee.
Well, yeah, so just a clarification on that, it's really more of whether the select board would like to
Well-
appoint the steering committee or the planning board appoint the
Okay.
committee. And the reason why that's usually kind of goes one way or the other is the planning board by law
They have to
will need to accept and approve
Right.
the final master plan. So some boards
Yeah,
have the planning board do it for that reason. But it would be typically a 7 to 9 member board. They could be as many as 11. But it's typically, the bulk of it being members from other committees. So one member of the select board, maybe one member of the planning, one member of youth commission, one member of conservation and so forth.
so what's your pleasure?
Has the planning board indicated their feelings on the subject at all, or?
They've definitely discussed, the master plan and will obviously be involved with it. I couldn't speak for whether they had any preference one way or the other. I think they would be prepared to do it either way. So,
Sean?
Yeah, I think, it's probably a little bit of a mixed bag from them on whether or not you ask individual members what they want to do, but I think my personal thought is to allow them to kind of drive it. That's just my thought.
Yeah, and it's almost like a boilerplate makeup anyway, right? You're gonna get people from.
I think it specifies who.
It specifies who's gonna be on, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with Sean, I think that let them.
No, I agree with Sean too. I don't know if anybody from the planning board's gonna like it, but, I feel the same way. You want us to take a vote on that?
sure, yeah, and I will
Okay.
notify them that.
Can I have a motion to notify the planning board that we'd like them in charge of the steering committee for the master plan? Now, just to clarify, this committee will be for the master plan. Will we have to have another committee for the open space?
Unless there's any objection, since it's being done together, I would, I would put it all together, and with
Same
the
people.
priority that we do open space first, so that,
Get it over with.
so that you have that for grant applications
All right.
sooner, but.
You all right with that, Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So who wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to defer to the planning board for appointment and I don't know, any other necessary action in regards to the master plan update.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Sean Renier, aye.
Bob Jones, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. Okay, that's about all we have on tonight's agenda. Our next regular meeting will be
Did
May,
have something on my report,
Oh.
sorry, yeah.
I missed your name, sorry.
Um,
Town administrator.
Just a couple quick things. So there were, after the last Board of Health appointment, we did have some questions. There was some clerical errors as to the terms. So just in an effort to be consistent with one set of terms, I'm just going to recommend that the board adopt the following terms for Board of Health members, and then we'll start their cycles this way, with Carissa Vincent having a term ending in July 1st of this year, Joanne Sullivan on July 1st of 2023, and Dr. Westbizer on July 1st of 2024. So that would be the new set of terms in 3 staggered terms for the lead.
And so then when they are reappointed, if they choose to, it'll be a 3-year term for each?
Yeah, each time would be a
Yeah.
3, but it was, again, some discrepancies there.
Yeah, just to
and
get
so
back on
this is-
track
So
here.
we're all on track, everyone's on the same page. So that's the list there.
I saw that.
Just saw that. Sean, you're aware of this, the list?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
The list for the Board of Health appointees, trying to get them all back on track of when they, are you in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay, could I have a motion?
I move that we get back on track with the Tri-Town Health.
Okay. All those in favor?
Bob Jones, aye.
Okay.
Sean Renier, aye.
Good.
The next announcement I have is just, we have which we've already talked about, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. So Babytown meeting is scheduled for the senior center, 6 o'clock on April 28th. And again, Finance Committee will meet tomorrow. We'll get those out, emailed to reps the following day, and then in the mail as well. So, and then I did want to announce that we'll have a new town accountant starting on May 9th, and she'll be overlapping with our current accountant for the last month or so until she retires.
Great.
So, and lastly, we did contract with Jakunski Humes for a public safety feasibility study, which will begin on the 28th, will be our initial meeting with them. So
April 28th.
April 28th, yep, they'll be coming over to meet with police and fire chief. And I have that available on the proposal if you'd like to check it out. So.
Anything else, Bob?
Chris, what time is this Babytown meeting?
Oh, at 6.
6, great, thank you.
It'll be downstairs at Crossway in the senior center room. So that's what's right adjacent to, the entrance is adjacent to Crossway Street.
Oh, that's right, because we haven't had one for 2 years.
So, yeah. Which, if anybody remembers, when that was a school, it would be the old band room. So,
Well, actually, it was the cafeteria.
I think that was it. I think that was next door. But maybe it's part of both of them. I could be
Maybe.
wrong, yeah.
No,
could
it's
be
a big
part of it,
area.
Yeah. One or the other, yeah.
Sean, do you have anything?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, now, our next regular meeting will be May 3rd at 7 o'clock, right here. Motion to adjourn?
I make a
So
motion.
moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sean McVay, aye.
Bob Jones, aye.
Pat Carlino, aye. And thank you, Chris. It works.